You ever make a cold call and your mind just goes completely blank because you just got hit with something from a prospect you weren't expecting, like an off-the-wall objection, for example? If so, this has happened to me so many times. If so, this is the video for you because you're going to learn a secret question technique that I learned yesterday to handle these situations. All right, Ronan, I'm coming into or bumping into a big issue on my cold calls right now. So after all the coaching I got from you, I'm using close-ended questions on my cold calls to guide the cold call with the prospect. And on one of those first questions, when I'm asking if a problem my product can solve resonates with the prospect, they're coming back and they're saying, hey, Matt, we already have something that takes care of that. We're all set. And I'm trying to use, Ronan, like a label. Like it sounds like what you're doing today is working really well to get them to open up more than try to use like an accusation audit to ask for a meeting. But I'm not getting the results that I'm looking for. And I think it's because I'm so focused just on one problem, even though my product or service solves 3 or 4 problems. How do I pivot from that first problem that's not resonating to this second or third problem that my product can solve without sounding salesy? Oh.
And there go the notes.
Notes are going crazy.
Well, that's a really great one because it's so relevant for a lot of people who do any kind of tech cold calling. You probably have a product that does multiple things. And even if you're not cold calling for tech, most people can point to a few value propositions or any kind of value that they might give their prospects. So there's a technique called problem stacking. So really quickly, just defining what that is and what it isn't. So problem stacking is essentially the ability to pivot well during a call. It's when you've hit a dead end, how do you loop around and keep going down another road to see if that one is a better road? And this technique really just utilizes super simple tactics that you and I have talked about on previous videos, but it uses them in a way that allows you to go from the next thing to the next thing to see which one might hit with a prospect. One of the actual video recordings that we covered features this very specific technique being used. It's the one where the guy has like the 5 objections and then overcome them. About halfway through that video, about like a minute, 10 seconds into that one, at some point I actually do a problem stack because he goes like, no, we're all set with that. So like from here, there's a few directions we could take this. We can go into like, all right, let's take from the top. How do you do it? But one thing I want to highlight is like what bad sounds like first.
Okay.
So
what I sound like now.
Well, you know what? I should say that if you're doing this, actually, congratulations, you're already working on using the technique well. So what I hear a lot of cold callers doing, I just did a cold call competition yesterday, and there were 8. Well, I was judging it.
Oh, you would have crushed everybody if you were participating. But
yeah, exactly. But there was this one participant who I'm like listening to the cold call, and this person just starts listing things. The person said, hey, when it comes to like this challenge and then challenge B and then challenge C, do any of those 3 things resonate with you? So that's an attempt at doing problem stacking, being able to list multiple things, but it's the bad way to do it. Okay. And the reason now this can work, by the way, it's not bad in that it'll never work. I'm saying there's a better way.
Was the reason why opening the call with that, Ronan?
It was pretty early on. It was like the opener, transition, and then she got right into that.
Got it.
And like, look, this is a more advanced technique, but it's one that once you understand, it's a bit more simple and you could use it really well. And the person just responds with, no, none of those things. I'm good. Take care. And the reason that happens is because of what that does. When you stack things like that together without breaking and you're monologuing, in her case, she was doing what I say is jargon vomiting, which is when you use too much marketing jargon.
Oh, God.
When you do those things and you're using this complex language, it just leads the prospect to like being like, this is salesy, sounds bad, I'm lost, I don't know what you do, so help me out here. And simplify it. And that's going to be the key to getting to good problem stacking is simplicity. Keeping it real simple.
5th grader needs to understand it.
Bingo. Yeah, I know you know the rule.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to it, the first rule of thumb is decouple the problems. Don't put them together in a monologue. Some people have success doing that, by the way. And if you're going to try it, you have to really keep it extremely short and extremely simple, almost like within a 12 to 15 second blurb. Hard to do, by the way. So to make it easier, just pick one, go with one problem, and use the probe-provoke framework to ask 2 closed-ended questions. So it sounds like this. You pick your most common problem, and you say, hey, out of curiosity, when it comes to this challenge, do you already have a way to handle that? And they'll say yes or no.
Yes.
And if they say yes, you can get into it with like, hey, that's really great to hear. You get into, is it competition, or is it really some sort of legacy approach that you solve for and make better? Let's say it's competition. They're really good. Congratulate them. Hey, that's awesome. You've got this covered. You're way ahead of the curve. Most people I talk to don't. By the way, one more question for you.
By the way. Yep. And then you're going into that second problem.
Exactly. And then you go right back to that same framework, probe and provoke. So you go right into, hey, just one more quick question for you. When it comes to problem number 2, do you already have a way to handle that? And if they say, no, I don't, or that's interesting, then you get into the provoke, which is like, have you ever considered a solution like solution 2 that solves problem 2 that would give you the benefit of having that? And that's the like templated version of it. We could think of some examples probably on the fly if we want to try it out here, but that's the whole idea. Decouple them and then ask a closed-ended question around, today, do you have this challenge solved? Do you have it figured out already? If yes, great. Hey, awesome. Congratulations. By the way, one more question for you. Do you have the second challenge solved? And then you can keep going into it from there.
So what's happening to me is when I share that first problem, and I'm sure this is happening to a lot of folks that are watching this video. This happens to me all the time. I share that first problem. I get an immediate pushback and objection to they already have that taken care of. And then my brain just goes blank. You know what I mean? Like, I just forget what I'm about to say, and then I just like, okay, and I hang up and I'm moving on to the next call, and I just wasted an opportunity to exhaust a few other problems my product or service can solve on that call. And it could potentially, there could be a need, right? And a problem I could solve, and we could book a meeting. But that's my biggest issue right now, Ronan, is I'm hitting a problem or an objection, and I'm just taking that first objection, and I might try to handle it. I'm going to try to handle it, but I'm not bringing up another problem so the call's ending.
Yeah, and that's super typical, by the way. So you're not, out of the ordinary when it comes to doing that. Most people just give up after the first thing because they're like, all right, I'm going to move on. This person doesn't have a need for what I do. It's a good exercise to be able to get into, like, can I list the top 3 things I do in a really simple sentence? And then can I take that sentence and ask a question, a closed-ended question around it that sounds like, hey, when it comes to this challenge that one thing you do solves, do you already have a way to handle that? If you can do that for your top 3 challenges and the top 3 parts of your product that you have, you're just ready to go. Then it's a matter of just getting into like, which one do I want to try first? And then which one do I want to pivot to? In this call example that I'm alluding to, which we could reshare, but in this example,
what's happening in this video?
The guy literally says like, no, we're all set. Like, I'm good there. And I go, hey, that's awesome. By the way, just one more question for you. When it comes to, and I shift to the second thing. And then he goes, oh, that's actually really interesting. Like, do you mind sending me an email with more information? Now, at that point, by the way, that's like a legitimate request. And then I handled that by saying my favorite line, which is like, hey, I've been sending emails like my whole career. And haven't heard back from anyone. Would it be insane if we just found 30 minutes? And he was like, yeah, okay, and he gave me a time.
Gotcha. So we'll drop that call in this video.
Possibly in the future. Right now, we're pretty happy with what we got, and I don't have a lot of budget for any extra software at the moment.
Yeah, totally understand that. Just one last question for you. When it comes to relaying what you're learning and support back to products, is that part of what you're able to do today with your current setup?
And guys, I know in the past with Ronan's videos, we had you drop your mic drop question in the comments. We had quite a few people participate. They were all amazing. Do the same exact thing. What are those 3 challenges your product or service solves in language that a 5th grader would understand? and create closed-ended questions, put them in the comment section, and I will send a $100 Amazon gift card to whoever has the best comment after the first week this video is posted.
Hell yeah. Can I participate?
You cannot. You're too good for this, man. You're too good for this. So just to reiterate here, Ronan, the key here is we want to pivot well off of that first problem. And some of the key phrases that you use, we're going to probe and we're going to provoke to understand what that first objection is. And then that key phrase, by the way, and then we're going to state that second problem to see if that resonates with the prospect.
Yeah, and if you don't want to use by the way, you can say, oh, just one more question for you. And that's your transition. That's the lead in into the next thing. So the rule of thumb here is doing bad problem stacking is when you're listing all these things and you follow up with an open-ended question that sounds like, does any of that resonate with you? Yeah. You're going to get a lot of no's that way. The second, cardinal sin of problem stacking that people try to do is to use really complex and unclear language, a lot of marketing jargon, something like, our omni-channel approach helps streamline efficiency. It's like, no, we simplify the tools that you use so that they're easy. So go for simple, easy language over marketing terms. And then the other mistake is people use a lot of open-ended questions too soon. And they're not yet at the point where the prospect is understanding exactly what you're talking about. So instead, try one thing at a time and then pivot to the second and to the third. Use simple 5th grade level language. And of course, closed-ended questions until you've gotten to the point where you're on the topic and on the thing that is the most relevant for the prospect. And then you can say, anything like that on your radar? Has that ever gone through your mind? That's a great way to put a bow on it at the end with an open-ended question to get them sharing. Now I know what this is, who this is, what the call's about, specifically what challenge you solve, and then you can have a conversation, and that's the goal. From there, you can pivot to the close.
So, Ronan, you're going to do 3. The problem stack is going to be 3 levels, problem 1, problem 2, problem 3. After problem 3, if the third problem doesn't resonate, then it's probably not a good fit, and you're moving on to the next call.
Yeah, if they keep saying, no, we're good there too, we're good there too, chances are they're really all set and there's not going to be much you've got for them. Yep. It's interesting to talk about very different types of problems that you solve when you're stacking so that you go into different domains if you can with your product.
Gotcha. Dude, this was a great help. And I know I'm going to sit down after I finish this recording with Ronan and write out my 3 problems that my product solves, and I'll put that and pin that in the first comment. Critique me, guys. If I have any stupid jargon in there, let me know. A 5th grader better be able to understand it. But Ronan, I was hit up the other day from someone on LinkedIn that watches these videos. They said, I think they spoke with you about your boot camp. They said it sounded promising, and they thought they were going to invest in it. Can you just share with the audience what you and Kevin are doing with your company to see if it might be a fit to help any of these guys out and girls out that are trying to get better at cold calling?
Absolutely. Essentially, I like to think of things in terms of your return on investment, right? When it comes down to it, if you're a cold caller, you know your commission backwards and forward, hopefully. And usually booking a few more meetings a month could be the difference in a few $1,000s, if not at least a few hundred. Essentially, what we're doing at the boot camp is we take any level of cold caller, but especially people who are newer to it or in the intermediate stage, and we are able to give them the tactics that Matt and I talk about all the time in 4 weeks over live Zoom sessions. So this is a live training, and it's done over 4 back-to-back Tuesdays or Wednesdays, depending on which cohort you're in.
Okay.
We offer it monthly, so check it out. It's linked in my LinkedIn if you want to learn more about the next one. And I even drop promo codes all the time. So maybe for your channel even, Matt, I could drop one. So people, if they want, something off, check the comments. I'll share it with you, Matt, if you want to throw it in there.
Now, how many people are typically in a cohort?
We go anywhere from 10 to 40, depending on the popularity of that time of year. But it's ranged. And then this is also the stuff that we do for private training. When we take it to companies, it's the same core material. The only difference is with the private stuff, we're way more hands-on. We customize things and we go longer. So we do a lot more reinforcement.
Okay, and is that going to involve any role-playing, Ronan?
Yeah, so that's a big part of what we do, and I'm glad you asked that. It's all about here's the skill, we teach you how to do it, you understand the concept, you try it on for size, and then we recap it before the next concept. And everyone, it's kind of like building a building. You know, we start with the foundation and build up.
Awesome. So guys, check out in the description Ronan's LinkedIn. If you're not following him, he's one of the best follows on LinkedIn. So if you're not following him, shoot him a connect request or just hit follow on his LinkedIn and look at those cohorts to see if it might be a fit. It probably will be, guys, because everybody can get better at cold calling. I've been cold calling for 5-6 years, and you saw today in this video, I'm coming in up against this problem, and I need to get past this problem to book more meetings because I need to fill my pipeline, and Ronan just helped me do that. So Ronan, thank you so much for hopping on these videos. I know we're going to do a lot more videos in the future here to make sure everybody's getting better at filling their pipeline with qualified meetings and fewer hangups.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, Matt. Always a pleasure.